It is late at night, and you are still awake. The room is quiet, but your mind is not. Your thumb keeps scrolling. Even though nothing you see feels satisfying, there are emails you have not answered, messages you have not replied to, expectations you have not met. It feels like you are always behind, always catching up, always running towards something that never quite arrives. You tell yourself that tomorrow will be different, that tomorrow you will finally feel in control. But deep down, you sense the truth. The more you try to control everything, the more everything seems to slip through your fingers. We live in a world that constantly pulls at our attention. Notifications, opinions, comparisons, endless streams of information. It creates the illusion that if you just try harder, think faster, respond quicker, you can manage it all. But the result is not control. It is exhaustion. It is the quiet anxiety that hums beneath everything you do. It is the feeling that no matter how much effort you give, something is always out of place. And this is where an ancient voice enters. Not loudly, not forcefully, but with a calm clarity that cuts through the noise. The Stoics, men like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, lived in a world just as uncertain as ours, filled with chaos, politics, loss, and unpredictability. Yet they discovered something simple and powerful. There are things you can control, and there are things you cannot. And your peace depends entirely on knowing the difference. This idea sounds almost too simple. Of course, there are things you cannot control, but in practice, we resist this truth constantly. We try to control how people see us. We try to control outcomes, reactions, the future itself. We build our sense of stability on things that were never ours to hold, and then we wonder why we feel so fragile. The first principle of Stoicism is this: focus only on what is within your control. Everything else must be released. Your thoughts, your actions, your values, these belong to you. But the opinions of others, the results of your efforts, the behavior of the world around you, these do not. When you confuse these two categories, you create unnecessary suffering. Think about the last time you felt stressed at work. Perhaps you worked hard on a project, gave it your full attention, and still received criticism. The instinct is to take that personally, to replay it in your mind, to wonder what you could have done differently to control the outcome. But the Stoic would say something different. You controlled your effort. You controlled your intention. The reaction of others was never yours to command. This does not mean you stop caring. It means you care more precisely. You invest your energy where it actually has power. You build what the Stoics called the fortress of the mind, a place that cannot be shaken by external noise. Inside this fortress, your worth is not dictated by applause or rejection. It is grounded in your own actions. The second principle is learning to accept reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. This is not passive resignation. It is an active alignment with truth. Much of our suffering comes from the gap between expectation and reality. We expect people to behave a certain way. We expect life to follow a certain path. And when it does not, we resist. We argue with what has already happened. But reality does not negotiate. It simply unfolds. Imagine you are stuck in traffic, already late, watching the minutes slip away. You feel frustration rising, your body tense, your mind racing. In that moment, what exactly are you trying to control? The cars are not moving because you want them to. The situation exists, independent of your feelings. Yet your resistance adds a second layer of suffering on top of the first. The Stoic response is not to pretend everything is fine. It is to see clearly. You are in traffic. This is the present moment. You can choose how you meet it. You can breathe. You can listen to something calming. You can accept that this is where you are right now. Acceptance removes the unnecessary struggle, leaving only the situation itself. There is a quiet strength in this. When you stop fighting reality, you free up energy. You become more adaptable, more grounded, less reactive. The storm may still exist outside, but within you, there is a stillness that is no longer dependent on perfect conditions. The third principle is perhaps the most challenging. It is the discipline of ignoring what does not matter. Not everything deserves your attention. Not every opinion deserves your response. Not every thought deserves your belief. We live in a culture that encourages constant engagement. You are expected to have an opinion on everything, to react to everything, to stay updated on everything. But this comes at a cost. Your attention is finite. Every moment you spend reacting to something trivial is a moment you cannot spend on something meaningful. Consider social media or yesterday. You see someone else's success, their curated highlight, their perfect moment. Without even realizing it, you compare. You question your own progress. You feel behind. But what are you actually responding to? A fragment of someone else's life, filtered and selected. It is not reality. Yet, it has the power to disturb your peace. The Stoic approach is not to reject the world, but to choose carefully what you engage with. You ask yourself, does this contribute to my growth? Or does it drain me? Does this align with my values? Or does it pull me away from them? You begin to treat your attention as something valuable, something worth protecting. Ignoring what you cannot control is not indifference. It is wisdom. It is the understanding that your energy is better spent on what you can shape, rather than what you can only observe. Now, this all sounds clear in theory, but how do you live it in practice? Especially in a world that constantly tests your patience and pulls at your focus. Start with something small. The first habit is a daily check-in with yourself. At the beginning of the day, take a moment to ask, what is within my control today? Not everything, just today. Your effort, your attitude, your choices. Anchor yourself in these. When challenges arise, return to this question. It becomes a quiet compass that guides your reactions. The second habit is to pause before reacting. When something triggers you, whether it is a comment, an email, or an unexpected problem, give yourself a moment. Do not respond immediately. Create a small space between the stimulus and your reaction. In that space, you regain control. You choose your response instead of being driven by impulse. The third habit is reflection at the end of the day. Not judgment, not criticism, but honest reflection. Where did you focus on what you could not control? Where did you let external things disturb your peace? And where did you succeed in staying grounded? This is how you build awareness. And awareness is the first step toward change. Over time, these small practices reshape the way you move through the world. You become less reactive, less overwhelmed. You begin to notice that many things that once bothered you no longer have the same power. Not because the world has changed, but because you have. There is a quiet freedom in this way of living. It is not loud or dramatic. It does not rely on perfect circumstances. It is steady, consistent, deeply rooted. You no longer chase control where it does not exist. You no longer tie your peace to outcomes you cannot guarantee. Instead, You return to yourself. You return to what you can do, what you can choose, how you can respond. And in that return, something shifts. The anxiety begins to loosen its grip. The constant pressure begins to soften. You realize that you were never meant to carry everything. The Stoics understood this long ago. They did not promise a life without difficulty. They offered something more realistic and more powerful. The ability to remain steady within difficulty. The ability to stand in the middle of uncertainty and still feel grounded. So tonight, or whenever you find yourself overwhelmed, remember this simple distinction. What is yours to control, and what is not? Let that question guide you. Let it simplify the noise. Let it bring you back to what matters. You do not need to control everything to feel at peace. You only need to stop trying to control what was never yours. And if this idea stays with you, even in a small way, and return to it when the world feels too loud, when your mind feels too full, when everything seems just out of reach, it will be there, quiet and steady, waiting for you to remember